This is The Truth News Channel coming to you from Vancouver, BC. I am your host, Jacob Burns. Thank you for tuning into today's broadcast. Today's question comes from one of our listeners, Sasha from Mission, BC. Sasha's first question is, was the news more reliable in the 60s? Great question. Most definitely the news was more reliable back in the 60s. The main reason being is that people relied on the news to tell them what was happening around the world. The news relied on reporters around the world to tell them what was happening, and so they trusted them to report the truth. Now, today, we have social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, which makes it so easy for news and false information to spread with the click of a button. There is no one to fact-check their statements, and everything is opinion-based. Nowadays, there are not many reporters around the world. Everything is online, and people can lie more easily online than in person. When the news relied on the reporters were the ones that had all the info, and they shared it with the news to inform them of what was going on. The reporters had many ways of communicating their info, but the main ways were televised and radio broadcasts. One major event that was televised in the 60s was the Vietnam War, which was the first war to be televised. If the press wanted access to the stories about wars, they had to get special credentials from the military. This made sure that the news didn't report anything the military didn't want to make public. The main purpose of media during the war was to raise morale and support the war effort. News sources like CBC are now primarily funded by federal statutory grants and Parliament is responsible for its overconduct. Reporters and editors cannot do their serious journalism. People are writing their opinionated blogs about existing stories and changing the narratives. It's more content, repurposing, and commentary instead of reliable quality news reporting. There's no clear model or standard that citizens use that news should meet. It's all social media feeds and web browsing to see what fits your opinion. Now, Sasha's next question is, what can she do to make the news more reliable? And this is an excellent question. The main way to make sure the news is reliable is to fact check, checking what people are sending you, especially on your social media platforms. This is so important because it has to be from a reliable source. It may be organizations you've never heard of, and you have to check to see if the articles line up. As everything is being moved online, there are fewer reporters and editors to cover articles and stories. It is important to know the organization's mission and motivations. How do they work, and if you can hold them accountable. So to answer Sasha's ultimate question, it is safe to say that the news was more reliable than it was back in the 60s. And this is all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to The Truth. Good night, Canada.